All right then. This might or might not turn into a flat earth rant, so hello flat earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. But I wanted to really kind of talk about, grassroots, 15-minute cities, the decentralized version, the good type of 15-minute cities. Yeah. As we come out onto the main road here in Phuket. I hope the signal's okay. Forgive me if it's a bit grainy or patchy. I'm just obviously working off a mobile signal here. But usually the audio is fine and the pic comes and goes. So here we are in rush hour. It's about 5 in the afternoon here in Phuket. So it is. Well, actually, Phuket Island has several cities, and well, the thing is, when we're talking about these 15-minute cities in the UK and the whole climate enslavement agenda, if that's how you want to call it, using the environment as an excuse to restrict people. The thing is, the last time I went back to the UK was not last year. You might have there's 1 or 2 supermarkets to choose from. You might have a bit of a town centre with a couple of struggling shops. I always tried to support the veg guy in the town. But for the most part, people opt for the convenience. Let me start this by saying when I was a kid, I remember, I was born in the 70s, in the UK. When I was a kid, I remember going up to the town with my mum. We'd go to the grocer and we'd go to the greengrocer. Then we'd go to the butcher. We might pop to 1 or 2 of the different supermarkets, depending on whether Mum had the stamps. I think the co-op was doing stamps and stuff then, and it was then we might go to the stationery shop, the card shop, and then I had to go to the post office, and then we had a shopping centre come along, and it kind of modernized. Well, it was a shopping centre with one larger supermarket, and so that kind of put the smaller supermarkets out of business. But it was still it was nice. You had your shoe shops, you still had your greengrocers and your butchers and what have you, and a large number of pubs. I think there were about 5 or 6 pubs within just a few hundred meters of each other. That was great growing up. We'd do the pub crawls. That's all changed now. They've all become bistros and hair and nail salons, and the rest of it is all boarded up. Of course, what people do is they go to the bigger supermarket, kind of out of town, and so they get everything. They get the petrol, they get everything, all the household goods, all the groceries, and what have you. And of course, it's attractive for people because it's a bit cheaper. But what you have there is convenience really is a killer. The smaller local shopping centre kind of killed off some of the smaller supermarkets operating there. When the bigger supermarkets opened up out of town, that killed off the small town shopping thing. And of course, and here. So all about that. So basically you go to a shop and you're buying all this stuff, and they might be kind of attracting you there with loss leaders and what have you, and bargain deals and joining their club card and promotions and stuff. But the thing is, you're buying a load of stuff, and you might buy veg and other produce and cheeses and this and that. You might have a little bit of local produce in there and stuff, but ultimately and then you're going to a checkout that might or might not have a real person there, and you're giving your money all over to one particular company. And well, there's a few things there. I mean, if you think about it, for a lot of elderly people, you know, the weekly shopping trip is the highlight of their week. And it's, you know, usually it would be a very sociable experience, and you're going to meet friends, or you're going to get, you know, have a chat with the shopkeeper or the person you know behind the counter, and have a bit of a natter and things like that. Maybe go and have a cup of tea with some friends. And yeah, but that's, of course, that's kind of it's all become very, very sterile. And of course, the whole Rona thing, the lockdowns, these people, it was so tragic, frustrating to see businesses willingly close their doors to cooperate with the nonsense, you know, knowing that they would, you know, under the false impression that it was going to be a to flatten the curve kind of thing. But as soon as they acquiesced to that, it was like, no, that's going to be a month and 6 months and a year. And it was death by attrition for a lot of these small businesses. And we know that was very much planned. Even if it wasn't, then of course the big guys, they can ride it out. They get to stay open because they're essential businesses. And of course then they get to dominate and monopolize the town. So you know, this is something that a lot of us could see coming, and it's just horrible to see people just, you know, kind of committing harry-carry, you know, themselves. So the thing is, let me just give you an example of here in Thailand. I mean, while we're driving, if you can see any of what's going on, there's we're on a main road now, so you won't see much, but you know, what you do have is I'd say about bloody hell, what's the matter with you? I'd say about probably something around the region of 80% of the population is self-employed, or, you know, working for a family business, yeah. And it involves food, but it could be supplying things in certain, it could be transport, it could be just providing, you know, some people just make sauces that are then sold to other vendors, you know, and or someone has a noodle stand or a coffee stand, and they go on their route, or they have their ice cream thing, and, you know, they have enough for the day, and they do their round, and they go home, and they've sold their lot, you know, done deal. Some people pick up rubbish, and I've met guys that have made a fortune from recycling plastic and stuff, yeah, from the stuff they picked up, and they go and recycle it. That's another thing that's a business here, you know. It's funny how people in the West will pay for people to come and pick up their recycling stuff. It's a farce, because actually they're making money off the stuff that you give to them, or pay them to take away. Here it's the other way around. You get someone to come and pick up a load of bottles. If you've actually got a big collection of bottles, or you can go to the recycling place yourself, and they'll pay you. They'll weigh this. I sometimes go. We pick up we've got all these plastic bottles and things, and so we collect them all up, and with other bits, maybe some steel or whatever, and we go to the recycling place, and they weigh it all up according to its different type of metal or plastic or whatever, and then they give us money for it. You know, and so I get the kids to help out, and they say, right, okay, we'll go make some sweetie money, and so we'll do that, you know, and it's, you know, it's worth it to them to I mean, they have to ship, for example, metal things. They have to stick it in a big truck, send it up to Bangkok, where it will be re-smelted or whatever it's done with it. So, you know, there's obviously value in the stuff we throw away, a huge amount of value, because they can afford to transport the scrap. You know, it's a profitable business for them to transport the stuff all the way up to Bangkok in a lorry, pay for all that, and have it, you know, then I suppose have it bought off of them. Yeah. So, and we have all these markets as well. So as well as the people kind of going around on their motorbikes or their tricycles or their kind of what they call samlaw, It's like a Sam is 3 and Law is wheels, so the tricycle things, which is like I'm sure we'll see one, a bike with a kind of side arrangement, motorbike with a side arrangement, and they'll be whatever they're selling. They might be selling vegetables. It could be just bananas. It could be fish or whatever. And then of course these guys go to the markets as well. So there's maybe in any given location there might be a market maybe 2 or 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on other days there's a market somewhere else. And so, for example, I went to the market the other night, and I spent maybe the equivalent to something maybe about £15 or something, but it wasn't all in just one shop, right? I mean, so I went and bought some pre-made stuff, maybe some curry or soups or whatever in a bag, some fish, some vegetables, some fruit. Each of these things would be from a different stall, and maybe some kind of brownies, little chocolate brownies or something, homemade. And so, I'm my let's say 600 baht was spread out among these different people, and they're all independent traders or their family operations. So everyone. And it's also nice. You go around, you have a chat, it's all smiles, and the market's only on for a couple of hours, and it's because people know when it's going to be on. It's usually in the evening, so maybe set up at 4 in the evening. By 5, 6, 7, by 7 o'clock, everything's pretty much done. They've all sold their stuff, they're packing up and they're going home. And obviously it depends, some of these people are keeping certain things on ice, or they just prepare enough for the day, or whatever. It depends what they're selling. They might be making pancakes or something. But the point is that they, they'll make their money for the day, and that's their trade, and then they go home, and they might not be super wealthy, but it's their thing. They're doing their thing. And I think when you're talking about 15-minute cities, I mean, yes, here, for example, where we are now, is like a 15-minute city. We just passed a restaurant there, there's a hairdresser there, there's another restaurant there on the left there. On the right, we've got, what do we got here? They've got selling kratom leaves. I expect they're selling marijuana as well. There's a little paint shop up here. There's there's all sorts. Everyone's got the little shop house going on here. Mobile phone shops, pharmacies. There's a school bus. Okay, little motorbike repair shop. There's a couple along here. So, and there's a place that makes the carts. We've just gone past a place that makes these carts that people can push around. And so, this is a 50-minute city where you can basically get outside your house, walk down the road, and maybe in the morning certain people are selling certain things on the side of the road, maybe kind of morning style donuts and coffees and things, and then in the evening it's a different kind of thing. That's a proper, we're going past a noodle stand now on the left. There's a 7-Eleven on the right, so of course you can pop in there, and it's funny because even though there are gazillions of 7-Elevens, I mean there are tens of thousands of 7-Elevens, I think, in the country, but they still don't necessarily steal too much business from. There's always enough to go around. There's you set up your little hot dog stand or your dim sum outside the 7-Eleven. You're still going to get business, because it works, because people go to the 7-Eleven and you're frying up your stuff or you're grilling your stuff and say, that's nice, I'll take some of that home too. And it's cheap enough to kind of make that kind of on-the-spot decision. You don't necessarily need a shopping list when you go out. that's really the kind of 15-minute, but of course 15-minute city that we should be aiming for. If I went back to England, one thing I would really love to do is kind of re-establish markets. It would be a hefty task, but wouldn't it be great if you could actually get it together to have some little market space under a roof where you set up these stalls? You see, these wet markets are really simple to set up because it's just under a roof, and then you have these kind of stone counters where they lay out their stuff. So everyone's got a little, what they call a lock. Yeah, so they have that little stone, their little counter, it's all there. And they come along, they rent the space. So the marketplace owner is getting money from the different people that are renting it. And of course, they're making their money and everyone's happy. It's lovely, it's fantastic. Yeah. And so I think, but of course, I know it would be you see here, it's perfectly normal. If you've got I want to sell orange juice, I want to sell barbecue sticks, you could just set yourself up, start with minimum investment and start selling on the side of the road until you build up a bit of a customer base, and away you go. You've got your little thing going. People will start to, as long as your stuff's good. And but I know that encouraging Brits, for example, that have now become used to ordering everything on Amazon, or I don't know, just getting ready meals or all this kind of stuff, then it might be difficult for people to. Yeah, I suppose people have got to. This is the thing. You've got to wake people up. They've got to understand the incentive to keep the community alive. And of course, that's what's missing. Communities are dying without that interaction, with everything becoming digital. You're not meeting people, you're not dealing with local businesses, and basically putting up with a lot of crap. People pay an extortionate amount for crap, and it's and very little choice. But that's the thing, you've got to kind of create these two things. You've got to create the supply and the demand at the same time. It's a bit of a balancing act. It's a toughie. But that's something I would, if I ever went back to the UK, I think I'd try and do that somehow. Of course, you're dealing with weather, but really, I mean, I've been back in the UK in kind of autumn, winter time. Summertime's great. Autumn time, winter time is fine. Really, it's not that bad. You might get a few really harsh days and stuff, but for the most part, the weather's not too bad. And people are totally used to it, aren't they? Yeah. So, yeah, and of course the other problem with the UK is if you wanted to set up some kind of little burger stand or something, you've got so many restrictions and regulations, health and safety and all that stuff, and I know that it's very much out of control, or maybe deliberately strict in order to make it almost impossible to be independent. And that was, when they had things like bird flu. I mean, it was obvious that, these kinds of things were all of these crises. They're done with an agenda to make it very, very difficult or nigh on impossible for the small person, the independent trader, to actually do their thing, or you're just even to just be independent and try to live a life where you don't have to buy stuff. When they're forcing you into these situations, But at the same time, this is why it's really important that we take back our power. There's also a lot of acquiescence, a lot of laziness, and so if we kind of go on to the whole flat Earth thing as well, if you make the effort, and this is just about any truth, anything, or any just your life, yeah. If you make the effort to carve out your niche, to find out, to investigate, to find out what's the truth. It takes a lot. It takes effort. It takes soul searching. It takes the ability to open your mind and change your mind, and face your fears, face your mindset, understand that you've been conditioned to have certain opinions or what have you. These are all things that get unraveled when you're on your truth-seeking journey. And so, of course, Flat Earth is one of those things where you really have to challenge your belief, or you at least recognize the extent of our beliefs and how indoctrinated we really are. And I suppose the point I'm making is that there's always going to be that was it. It's like you often hear, well, it doesn't matter what shape the earth is, I've still got to get up and I've still got to get up and work in the morning. Well, yeah, I mean, every single living creature, from birds to worms to plants, has to work for a living. They have to get up, they have to find their food. We're lucky actually as humans that we can be very creative about it, but we end up not being creative, or we end up a lot of the time our creativity gets burnt out, gets squashed, gets directed, gets watered down, becomes compromised. It is a struggle. It is a battle to stay independent and really be free in that respect. And there is a balance as well. It is tough because in some ways you do have to adapt to certain things. So people aren't carrying money around so much these days. And if you're a busker on the street, well, you might make more money by having a card reader as part of your toolkit. You might not agree with it, you might not like doing it, but it's kind of it's crossing that. It's kind of striking that medium, isn't it? You can't stop progress. There will always be progress, whether people end up using digital money or whatever. Well, you can maybe be a part of it, but you don't completely depend on it. That's the thing, isn't it? You find your way of managing your life in your way and managing your finances. So I'm just going to try and pull up here because I got to wait for my kid from school, and then we can have a little chat while we do that. Let's have a look. See, let's turn the. Hang on a minute. I'm going to be naughty. Keep the engine running so that I can keep the aircon going. Hello. Who have we got? Glenn, hello. BKK Dave. Likewise, Scott. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening with. Oh, I see. Oh, right. Yeah, the chat's showing up weird. Okay, hang on. I've just got to the top of the chat. Hello, Zeus Scott. Hello, Andrew. Thank you. Glenn Salch, 6:20 a.m. for you. All right. Okay, Zen Solo, hello there. All right. Yeah. Yeah, Zeus Scott, you're very good at finishing my sentences sometimes. And Glenn, orchestrated. There we go. Yeah, you got the words for me. Real life. Yeah, that's it, mate. OJ McBaggins, hello, whoever you are, I've not seen you before. Rune Torson, 50-minute city sounds nice. The only real problem is the exactly, yeah, that's kind of the point I was talking about. So yeah, you've got the centralization, we know that the goal of the 50-minute cities is there, but that's it. We could take that and say, no, all right, yeah, thanks, we'll have our 50-minute cities. And I think this is the thing, there's people do have to get active, don't they? You have to. It's just like this, just like the flat Earth thing. You have to be responsible for your beliefs. We also have to be responsible for our community, and it's just that's the thing. The way the Thais have their community, there's some wonderful things about it. And it's not long ago that the Thais, well, they still live like it. But it's not long ago that things were very, very basic. But people in villages and stuff, they're happy and everything's fine. They obviously, neighbors have different things that go on, but they don't, for the most part, they can usually find a way to get on, avoid conflict. But people are growing different things in their gardens. You've got the rice paddies, for example, and you see in the past, in the village, everybody would do each other's rice fields. So each family has their rice fields, and so they would all help each other out. And it benefits everyone. Everyone gets fed. They've all got a supply of rice. There might be some people without their own paddy fields, but they would do enough to have their own supply of rice, maybe helping with other people's rice paddies. And of course, it used to be very much very, very environmentally friendly, because the buffaloes would be used. Right, so they got a couple of buffaloes. The buffaloes, they eat grass and drink, water, and so they used to plough the fields and so on. And the thing is with the fields as well, is that when the rains come, which is like around this time, so you might, in the past, you'd have one or possibly two harvests a year, but usually only one. And so what happens is the rains come. Of course, the rice paddies need the rains, yeah. So they have them arranged, and the rains come, the waters come, and these fields, they fill up. They're teeming with life. Fish, freshwater shrimp, crabs, snails, rats, all sorts of things, yeah. And so what happens is that they of course, so a whole bunch of snails appear, and they'll go and grab all these snails to eat, because if they just left all the snails there and then the snails would eat all the crop. So the snails become food for the farmer, and they'll just round up a whole lot, and of course they collect them together, boil them up in a pot or whatever. Frogs and things like that as well. There's so many. I mean, even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, to be honest, it's part of the cycle, yeah. All these animals are eating each other. The snakes are eating the frogs, and this and that and the other. But if the people didn't eat some of the animals, they would never eat all of them. There's just too many. It's just so abundant, then they would take over, and they would monopolize the crops. So there is a balance kept by the locals eating the local. Again, they're eating local stuff. They're not having to import Wagyu beef or anything. But what happens over time is this convenience comes in. So the traditional, now again, if you've got a buffalo, it's great. The buffalo manure is used as fertilizer, and it all, again, that's just cyclical. It all works absolutely fine. But when it comes to then what happens is people, they want a rotavator. See what happens. So once the villagers got electricity, they had electricity, then they got fridges, and then they got TV. And it's just like the old days in war, in the kind of war where one household might have a TV, and they collect rent from people to come and watch the TV. But of course, then things like the rotavator, the petrol engine rotavator comes along, and then the fertilizers come along, and all of a sudden the farmer is then trapped in this cycle of having to, then they have to use the artificial fertilizers, then they're using the pesticides. As I said, in the past, there was a balance. The buffaloes are doing, they're eating certain stuff, they're eating grasses and other stuff. The people are eating stuff, but of course, once you've added pesticides, you can't eat the stuff that's in the paddy fields, and of course, or the animals are not going to really survive in it anyway. So all of a sudden, you've got this you destroyed that cycle, that natural cycle, because they've got to buy the petrol to pay. And well, the thing is, they probably sold the buffalo to buy the rotavator, and then before they can use the rotavator, they got to buy petrol, and then they've got to start paying people to do their fields, and it just becomes. And as I said, if they're using fertilizers or pesticides, then that creates, a kind of puts an end to the cycle as well. So yeah, a lot of them have become trapped in that, but there's still a lot of people that understand and respect and appreciate the necessity of keeping things grassroots, and no one here is going to stop you doing that. That's another thing. You can really live like that. You can do that. You can live that way if you want to. Yeah. And so that's the thing, isn't it? We've become so offended by. I think a lot of people probably couldn't stand to see certain things in a supermarket because they haven't been exposed to real life. It's just people get so easily offended. Yeah. Yes, Zen Solo, kratom leaves are legal now. They were illegal. They were a class whatever. They were kind of mild. Yeah, it's a mild stimulant. And the workers often get them on the way to work, the construction workers. And that's another thing here. Construction workers are, they're a mixture of male and female. They all kind of chip in. So kratom, yeah. And again, that was just around. It's only been a year or so that they've made kratom, and it was gradual. Kratom came first. And then weed, marijuana. It's kind of been decriminalized. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I would never dream of opening up my own shop because I would just be a target. You're still dealing with the mafia, but it's funny because as soon as it was kind of allowed, all of a sudden these shops sprung up with all these different strains on offer. It's fantastic. So. My daughter has become while the old man has kind of become a bit bored of that whole scene. My daughter's become quite a connoisseur. So yeah. So all that stuff has come down. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Zoo Scott. But no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. Good point. Yeah, and that. As I said, I wasn't. When I went back to the UK, I was really looking forward to letting my kids experience the cold, and it's like it wasn't that cold. It's like I want them to freeze their nuts off, but yeah. Glenn Souch, why does it always come down to making money? We can't eat dollars or cents. Yeah. Hello. Okay, BK Dave. We said hello already. Yeah. Jeff Gashhead. Really? Amazon pays no tax? Yeah, interesting. Oh, yeah, I must, Martin Nidke, and who's in where is he? Is he in Texas at the moment? Where is he? I'm not sure, but he's in the US at the moment. Brilliant presentation. Check him out. I made a really good presentation with his friend. I think his friend's name's Max. I'm not sure. I'm not Max Eigen, but another Max, I think. So they've got this whole idea that the Great Wall of China isn't Chinese but Roman, and it was a trade route and blah blah blah. So let them do the talking. Go and check him out. I think it's a brilliant insight there. So yeah. What's that, Glenn Souch? I traded 250 mealworms for a dozen fresh duck eggs. I'm betting the ducks like the mealworms more than the bitcoins. Lovely, nice one, yeah. Hello there, Iron Horse. Yeah. Crawfish. Well, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of life. It's when they go off in breakfast is when you're up country. When breakfast is basically they go off into the forest and whatever they find. It might be a mixture of mushrooms, various insects and stuff in the water. Again, to me, there's no problem eating bugs really. I mean, it's not obviously. I understand that there's a whole agenda behind. You will eat the bugs, but really, I mean, people do it here, and it's yeah. because that's what they do when they go into the forest. They'll pick up, so they'll come back with, some leaves of this, some freshwater shrimps, maybe a couple of crabs, some young bamboo shoots, and things like that. And you see, the thing is, it's funny because I've watched, sometimes my wife watches these YouTube programs where Thai people have gone to live in somewhere in Europe, maybe England or Canada or something like that. And it's funny because they go around, these Thai women, they go around foraging, and they're just on these hedgerows and the kind of thing that you would just pass by, but they're spotting all these things that you can eat, and it's all for free. It's all for free in the hedgerows and the countryside. Yeah, it's fantastic. They go, oh, look, there's some young bamboo shoots there. We'll take some of these nettles. We'll take some of these leaves. And, oh, there's this and that, and the dandelions and stuff like that, all these different... There is so much flora that can be eaten in the UK. And I do remember the very first time I took my wife back, and we walked through this cow field, and she's like, you can eat that. Oh, this you can eat. And, that's fantastic. That's the kind of, that's already in danger of dying out, because obviously today's kids, we're not doing that with our kids. They're not seeing it. We try to get them to be as kind of involved in food preparation and things like that as possible. They know their stuff. They can cook, but they're not as familiar as maybe my wife would be. She would be the last generation that would be really familiar with going into the forest and knowing what you can or can't eat, and taking it and preparing it. So actually that's a really really important education. But you'd be surprised, even if you live in dreary old England, you'd be surprised just how much of what's growing on the ground you can actually eat. And make a nice, you just take this stuff, and that's it. Things grow at certain times of year. Whether you might be on the beach looking for mussels, but then in the grasses by the beach, there's all this other stuff that you can pick. It's fantastic. And but most 90% of people wouldn't know about that. It takes a Thai from Asia to go over there and point these things out. Look, you can eat this, you can eat that. It's amazing. Yeah. So. What's that, Jeff? They have fluoridated nearly all the water. They've poisoned the well. Yeah. Of course, it's like, we could be trapping rainwater and things like that. There's so many. This is it, really. As I was saying earlier, if everyone makes the effort to do that, to kind of create a bit of a homestead, and that's the only way. There's protesting and demanding that the government do this and that for you is pointless. Just I think it was great that there were certain protests, and that was great it was lovely to see the numbers. During the lockdowns, you had this show of force, which of course they weren't going to report on. I would like to say kudos to is it Daniel Nesbitt, The Light? If you get to watch this, if you get to hear about it, fair shout. Kudos to your interview with the BBC there, and it's funny, isn't it? They really they couldn't say anything against you apart from some really, they had to dig around for a malicious. They really had to find a malicious angle there. They weren't interested in. Again, they're never interested in doing real reporting. If someone from the BBC is asking questions and then denying, we followed the science and pretending that they interviewed everyone it's just like, they just, if anyone actually investigated, the yellow reporting, the yellow card reporting, or the VARS system or whatever, if any reporter worth their salt took a look at that, all they had to do is, they didn't have to, this is the thing, there's this reporter, there's this BBC reporter putting across opinion, not talking about facts, but talking about opinion and pushing that on the people. Whereas, there's Nesbitt talking about facts and talking about where their sources are. These doctors, these reporting systems, and of course, Anyway, I've got off the track there, but it's all related, isn't it? It's because each of us has got to make that individual effort, and that's the whole. That's what happens when you realise, you wake up to the flat Earth and all the other stuff. You realise it's only your effort. It's only because you actually challenged your beliefs, and you were diligent. You did your due diligence that you ended up where you are now. Yeah. Whereas others will just spend the rest of their lives in denial, and that's a horrible way. That's a painful, suffering way to live, because instinctively we know when we're living in denial, don't we? And that weighs heavy on us. This could be, the stress of that kind of thing. This could be the cause of things like cancers and other related things. We're not living a true life. We're trying to fit into a life that just isn't human. It's inhumane. And of course that causes all sorts of problems. Yeah. So hello, Mighty Atom. Hello. Who killed all the dinosaurs? Yeah, sorry if I'm a bit behind in the chat, but I'll try and make it through this time. Right, so Bangkok Dave, that's interesting. How has the weed legalization affected life there? Well, it's funny because, like I said, it's no big deal. It's actually no big deal. Everyone makes a big hoo-ha about it, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, I wouldn't know if the crime rate has been affected or anything like that. Shit, my battery's running down. Oh no, I didn't want. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to wind this up because I think my battery's getting low. Oh, what a bummer. Oh, sugar, guys. Maybe I can carry my phone's not going to last. I'm going to have to give it up. I'm really sorry. This has been a fantastic chat. I'll look through the chat later on, and maybe we'll catch up and have a little when I'm back home on the camera. But if I don't hang up now, then we're going to lose. It will messed up. So yeah, it's like good food for thought. So okay, take care. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. We'll catch up later. Okay. Cheers.